Hello. Let me tell you a story about Die Glocke, Hitler's mysterious Wunderwaffe. There are legends to this day about the miracle weapon that Germany allegedly had at its disposal. During World War II, the Nazis reportedly developed numerous projects that would allow them to win the war. One of Hitler's Wunderwaffe was to be Die Glocke. In the years 1930 to 45, Die Glocke is referred to as a scientific device or Wunderwaffe. This mysterious weapon, which was to be developed in the Third Reich, was first described by a Pole, Igor Witkowski, in his books Hitler's Super-Secret Weapons from 2001 and The Truth About Wunderwaffe in 2007. In the following years, the Die Glocke case was popularized by journalist Nick Cook. His research on the strange device of the Germans led him to the conclusion that in the Third Reich they were working on building a bell-shaped device that was to rotate and shine, resist gravity and generate energy itself. Cook linked Die Glocke with Nazi occultism, and also suggested that the Germans wanted to create a time machine. It is also worth mentioning here the company of Thule and Vril, whose members mentally connected with the civilization from the Aldebaran constellation. This civilization gave them the plans of Die Glocke. In addition, the Germans strenuously led the expedition to Tibet in the 1930s, where the monks perhaps handed them many secret and old books and the plans of the ancient Wimama. Igor Witkowski in his book Hitler's Supertiner Weapons claimed that in the 1990s he was contacted by a man who worked in the intelligence service of the People's Republic of Poland and had information about secret German projects from the Second World War. One of such projects was Cronus, and the construction of Die Glocke, the bell. Witkowski describes this mysterious device as follows. The main part of the bell were two massive cylinder drums, 1 meter in diameter, which were spun in opposite directions at enormous speeds during the experiment. The drums were made of silvery metal and rotated around a common axis. It was a rather unusual core with a diameter of 12 or 20 centimeters. Attached with its lower end to the massive bell plinth, it was made of heavy, hard metal. Before each test, something like an elongated ceramic container with walls covered with a layer of lead about 3 centimeters thick was placed inside it. It was about 1 to 1.5 meters long and filled with a strange metallic substance with a golden purple hue and the consistency of a slightly curved jelly at room temperature. Perhaps this material was related to mercury. According to the Polish writer, Die Glocke was a development of an equally mysterious Haunebu project, i.e., an anti-gravity flying disc, which the Germans also allegedly built. Die Glocke was to be, among other things, a propulsion for flying objects of the Third Hanebu Nazi UFO. Even before Brill was included in the research, the SS was interested in extraterrestrial matters. To this end, Himmler established an occult research office called the Haunebu in 1935. At the beginning of 1939, the organization was incorporated into the SS. The tasks of the Haunebu were to prove the racial superiority of Germany by linking it to the mythical race of the ancient Aryans. The office was also looking for the Holy Grail and the spear that Jesus was pierced with. As soon as the vehicle created by the Brill Company began to achieve its first successes, the SS joined the program of building flying saucers. A new group called Black Sun was created and a facility called SSEIV, SS Entwicklungsstelle IV, whose task was to research alternative energy sources. The SSEIV group already in 1939 developed a revolutionary electromagnetic gravity engine. The power device was a set of combined strong electromagnets of the generator by Van de Graaff and the dynamo Marconi, which contained a ball of rotating mercury. A device called the Thule tachyonator produced a swirling electromagnetic field. And what might sound impossible, was it possible to reduce the mass alone? The technology on which Haunebu was based was to be developed from the second half of the 1930s until the end of World War II in 1945. This is the name of one of the versions of the anti-gravity drive vehicles. The Haunebu was supposed to be a manned vehicle. The drive was to be a device operating in a manner similar to a gyroscope, based on the principle of rings rotating at a very high speed. The first works on the Haunebu I facility began in August 1939 and only 2 were constructed. Haunebu was a complex and more elaborate structure than the old Vril. Unlike its predecessors, the Haunebu I uses a new and completely unconventional Thule Tachyonator 7B engine. The so-called Field Mage Pulsar 4 was used for the control room. It had a large cargo capacity and could accommodate 8 crew members. It achieved an astonishing speed of 4,800 km per hour, but only at low altitudes. Further improvements allowed to reach up to 17,000 km per hour. The maximum flight time was 18 hours. The possibility of hovering in space was only 8 minutes. The outer shell of the disc not only acted as armor, but also had to withstand the incredible heat generated by the vehicle during the flight. That is why the SS used a special Victalen armor, developed as early as 1930. The vehicle was armed with a 2x8 cm KSK gun in a rotating turret and 4x Mk106 coupled machine guns constantly pointing forward, due to the secrecy of German plans. Haunebu flew for the first time in August 1939, a few weeks before the start of the war. The maiden flight was not 100% successful, because the vehicle was not very stable and it swayed strongly. In total, 52 test flights were completed. It was not fully ready until 1944. At the outset, it should be noted that there are 2 main models of Vril 1. Due to the large time interval between the works on one and the other model, they differ from each other. It all started in December 1919 when a small group of people from Thule, Vril and DHVSS met at a rented forester's lodge near Berchtesgaden. Among them was Maria Orsi's medium. Vril leader Maria Orsi made contact with representatives of an alien civilization from the Aldebaran system, who conveyed mysterious messages to her. Initially, there were problems with understanding the messages. But after deciphering it, it turned out that they were data about a machine. The plans for the flying machines were transferred to the University of Munich, where they were analyzed by Dr. Winfried Otto Schumann. He stated that the plans did indeed represent the specs of the flying machine. Sooner, the first technical drawings were prepared on the basis of the data from 1919 provided by the medium Maria Orsic. Already in the 20s of the 20th century work began, the end of which was to be a flying disc. In those years, the Vril Association, which was responsible for the work, had considerable financial problems. Therefore, a special fund was created, JFM, Jensitzflugmaschine, which was to finance the work on the mysterious machines. The fund is mentioned in the books of several German industrial companies. Supervision over the work was delegated to Professor Schumann. The vehicle was quite complicated considering the possibilities of the factories at that time. Therefore, the parts of the vehicle were created in various parts of Germany, which were later combined in the vicinity of Munich. The vehicle had 3 discs. One is 8 meters in diameter. The other is 6.6 meters in diameter, and the third is at most less than 7 meters in diameter. In the active state, the upper and lower discs rotated in opposite directions. The drive unit was a cylindrical drive unit consisting of an electric starter motor. The date of the first Vril 1 flight is unknown, if any. After 2 years of experiments on this vehicle, it was disassembled and transported to Augsburg, where it was stored at the Messerschmitt plant. According to one version, it was destroyed, while another one says that Schumann transported it to Peenemünde, where he conducted further research. It is worth adding that other research on Nazi UFOs was also carried out in the Peenemünde Center. It was not until the 1940s that the concept of this model was returned to, when a much better known, armed and improved version of the Vril 1 was created. Work on the Vril 1 aroused great interest in the Nazi Party. After the NSDAP took power in 1933, Thule and Vril received official support to continue their plans to build space-capable and military-grade machines, thanks to the state subsidy and aid from the Reich Aviation Ministry. The society did not have to worry about raising funds, and the work entered a more advanced stage. The works were again supervised by Professor Schumann himself. The new vehicle was called Vril 2 with the designation RFZ1. RUNDFLUGZENG1. The German airline company Arado was to create the latest version of Vril. This company was chosen by chance. It was founded in 1925 and was one of the pioneers in the use of jet propulsion in aviation. All work was transferred to the Arado aircraft factory in Brandenburg. RFZ1 was supposed to take off thanks to the SM levitator technology invented by Professor Schumann. The ship had a diameter of 5.5 meters. Additionally, the Arado plants made several improvements. A conventional rudder from the Arado R-196 reconnaissance seaplane and large skids were attached to help in the event of an expected hard landing. After more than 10 years of work, the Vril ship was finally ready in 1934 for its first and last flight. The World War I ace pilot Lothar Weiss was selected for the maiden flight of the Vril 2. Unfortunately, which was quickly discovered, the RFZ1 was terribly difficult to pilot. After reaching a height of 60 meters, the first problems arose. The pilot managed to bring the vehicle to the ground, pop out and escape before the RFZ1 started acting like a popular spinning top toy. The vehicle turned and literally tore to pieces. The improvements to the Arado plants, however, proved to be practically useless for this type of unit. This was the end of RFZ1, but the beginning of Vril flying machines. Haunebu 2. RFC6. In late 1942, the SS4 research group began building the Haunebu 2, which was a more refined model than the Haunebu I. The changes concerned the skeleton of the drive system housing as well as the external appearance. It was about 30 meters in diameter and 9 to 11 meters high. It had 4 electrogravity generators, 1 large centrally located, 3 smaller stabilizing ones, and it could reach speeds of up to 6,000 km per hour. The Haunebu 2 was probably fully prepared for spaceflight, as evidenced by the crew quarters marked on the plans, which were to be used in the case of a long voyage. Some types of these vehicles were equipped with special battle stations for the Donner beam cannons, located in the housing. Already in March 1945, the Dornier aviation plant received an order for serial production of the Haunebu IIHAUNEBU-3. At the end of the war, the most perfect ship was developed, Haunebu 3, with a diameter of about 70 meters. Only one prototype was created. It could accommodate as many as 32 people and reach a speed of 10 Mach, about 12,000 kilometers per hour. And was able to fly continuously for 8 weeks without landing. The propulsion of this ship probably, according to our assumptions, consisted of electrogravity generators. It completed only 19 test flights during which its operation was checked. Apparently, in the spring of 1945, the Russians managed to shoot down an unidentified flying object. After inspection, they were not able to say what he was. As for HAUNEBU, Germany turns out to have even bolder plans. There are plans for huge HAUNEBU with a diameter of more than 120 meters. According to the documentation, There was a prototype Haunebu 3 with a diameter of about 70 meters. To make matters worse, even before the end of the war, the SS-4 planned to build a giant base ship, which, thanks to the propulsion used in Vril vehicles, using the force of gravity, several hundred tons of its mass posed no problem in moving. It was to be built in the Zeppeliner factory and be called Andromeda. The power supply device for all of Haunebu's ships was a set of combined strong electromagnets of a Van de Graaff generator and a kind of spherical Marconi dynamo containing a ball of swirling mercury. The device produced an electro-gravitational field and was dubbed the Thule tachyonator. Hans Koller and von Franz Hade from Siemens, Schucker and the AEG Telefunken laboratory worked on this invention. After the capitulation of the Third Reich, an investigation was launched in Berlin by the NKVD unit dealing with the interrogation of German prisoners of war and German officers related to the secret technologies stored in Lower Silesia. Led by Kol Vladislav Zemansky and General Jakub Prawin, documents from the investigation were written without the help of a translator or typist, and then sent through a special channel to Beirut. And all because the interrogations concerned, as one of the respondents of the SS Jakob Sporenberg put it, the most secret project of the Third Reich. It was called Cronus, the central element of which was a device called Die Glocke. Well, it was a device quite different from the weapons known to us, eliminating everyone who got in his way. It had the shape of a cylinder about 2.5 meters high and 1.5 meters in diameter, the heart of which was a rotor consisting of two counter-rotating masses filled with mercury. This was shocking because the physical theories about the generation of an anti-gravity field by two counter-rotating masses, this field probably neutralizes the gravity of the Earth, are modern theories based on the most modern advances. A vehicle with such a drive could easily lift off the ground and move through the air at great speed. However, a byproduct of such an engine would be emitted high-intensity X-rays and microwave radiation, which could cause biological effects by destroying living tissue. It is worth adding, by the way, that the above-mentioned soldiers died later in mysterious circumstances. The question is, where did the Germans hide their aircraft? All traces indicate that they may be hidden in a secret underground base in Antarctica. In order to support this hypothesis, we are forced to look into history and remind ourselves of a certain enterprise that may be related to the German UFOs. We are talking about the ANTARKTIS project from 1938. It was this year, on the orders of Hermann Göring, that an extraordinary expedition led by the carrier Schwabenland began. Its goal was to conquer certain areas of Antarctica, which was successful, and the Germans took over a huge area of about 6,000 square kilometers, which was called New Swabia. It is not just any part of Antarctica. It is a habitable land free of ice, with mountains and lakes that no foreign expedition has ever reached before. At the end of World War II, it is said that entire flotillas of German submarines were sent to Neue Swabia, including the ultra-modern types 21 and 23, which could accommodate and transport Vril or Haunebu vehicles. In support of this, the Allies, led by Admiral Byrd, attempted to invade Antarctica, which was officially a research expedition. But for what purpose were an escort of more than 4,000 soldiers, a warship, an aircraft carrier, and huge amounts of supplies sent there? The Americans probably wanted to get these missing technologies there. And so, after the undisclosed number of lost planes, this operation was suddenly interrupted after 8 weeks. What very good opponent could it fight off their invasion? It is also a historical fact that at that time 30 German submarines that left the port at the end of the war were lost. It should be remembered that many Wunderwaffes were created with the help of slave labor of thousands of forced laborers. prisoners and prisoners of war from all over Europe, which was associated with great suffering and death. Honor their memory.